Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucia and this is Lulu's Leaves.
I'm no good at being good, but I never said I was. And I feel misunderstood, cause I'm trying hard to love.
In today's video, I really want to talk to you guys about some of the mistakes that I made early on in my plant journey. And the reason that I'm talking to you guys about these mistakes is because I really want you guys to be able to avoid them, or at least be aware of them. These are some of the main things that lead to your plants dying or your plants suffering at least. And I really want to help you guys out because that's really what I'm here for. I just want to help you guys learn a little bit more about plants and show you some new plants every once in a while. But in today's video, it's really gonna be all about just sharing some of my knowledge and hoping to help you guys out. With that being said, before we do get into today's video, I would absolutely love it if you click that subscribe button down below. Also, if you want to be entered into the giveaway to win a $20 Amazon gift card, don't forget to also give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. The winner will be announced in my next video. Also, if you're not already a member of my channel, you can also click the link down in the description below to check out the different tiers. If you want to join at the top 2 levels, you gain access to some extra content. And then also, if you just want to join at the lowest tier or any other tier, you also gain access to a Discord group chat where we talk all about plants all day long. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out that link down below. Also, if you see the join button, that will also take you there. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. It really depends on the device you're on. But yeah, that's going to be all the blabbing before I get into today's video. I really hope you guys do enjoy it. I have talked about this in the past, but if you're keeping indoor houseplants and outdoor houseplants, you do need to know that you have to take care of them very differently. I will say I have had a lot of success with my indoor houseplants, but as soon as I got into outdoor houseplants, I failed miserably. So you do need to keep in mind that when you're keeping plants outdoors, you have to water almost every single day because of the elements, because there's always wind, there's extra heat. But if your plants are indoors, like most of ours are, we do need to make sure that we're not watering as often because these plants are not in a direct path of a windstorm or a rainstorm. We just need to be cautious that for the most part, we don't water until the plants are dry. I would say 99% of my plants, and maybe this is because I've only collected plants that need to be treated this way, but 99% of them like to dry out completely before I water them. And I find in the summer, I'm watering about once a week, but in the winter, I'm watering only once every 2 to 3 weeks. So keep that in mind. You definitely do not want to be watering your plants as often as you would be if they were outside, just because you're definitely not exposed to the same elements that you would be if you were growing plants outdoors. Staying on the same token, in the summer, it is really easy to underwater your plants. So make sure that when you see a little sign of droopiness in your plants, that is when you are watering, because if you let them go too long without water and it's really, really hot, like it has been in Ontario the last few weeks, it's really easy to lose those plants, or at least lose some leaves, because it's been very dry, and if there's no humidity, there's really no moisture for that plant to grab from the air. So it's really crucial that when it's hot and dry, that you're giving your plant exactly what it needs, exactly when it wants it. So just keep that in mind if you are taking care of some indoor houseplants right now. The next common mistake that a lot of plant parents make is that they don't give their plants enough light. Over the winter, this front room that I'm in right now got a lot of sunlight, but now we have a giant tree outside that has basically covered most of the sunlight with its leaves. So it is a little bit unfortunate, but I have been able to supplement some areas with some extra grow lights, and I am keeping in mind that these plants might not grow as well in the summer just because of that blockage of light as they will in the winter when this window gets a ton of light. But if you really want your plants to grow well all year round, you really want to be supplementing with grow lights when your plants aren't getting the right amount of light. There are definitely some different grow lights that I have, and all of them have worked really, really well for me. I don't think I've had a single grow light that hasn't worked or has been really poor quality. So I'll just insert a few clips of some of the grow lights that I use on a regular basis. And if you're interested in them, I will have them all linked down below. But yeah, grow lights can be really, really helpful when you want to grow plants in dark rooms, or if you just feel like your plant's getting super leggy. Sometimes some light directly from that grow light can be super helpful in creating a better environment and a healthier plant. So keep in mind, just don't be keeping your plants in dark corners unless they're suited for that. Something like a ZZ plant or a snake plant would be just fine in lower light. But for most of my plants that I keep, at least, they definitely do need some extra help when the room is a little bit dark. Next up, I do want to talk about repotting. Another really common mistake is that people do not repot their plants when they need it. And the other common mistake is that people pot their plants into pots that are way too large for that plant. So let me bust that myth specifically before I get into when you need to repot. I know that a lot of people believe that putting your plant into a really large pot when it's small is going to make it grow a lot faster. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It eventually will grow larger if it is in a larger pot. But before it does that, it actually needs to take a lot of time to plant its roots into the rest of that pot. So what it will do is, instead of putting the energy into the actual plant itself or the leaves, it's actually going to put it directly into the roots. And it's going to spend a lot of time just planting those roots into that large pot when it could be spending time growing leaves. So when do you know when it's time to repot your plant? One of the things that I preach most on this channel is to keep your plants in clear pots. The reason I tell you guys to keep your plants in clear pots is because it allows you to see the roots at all times, or at least when that plant is ready to be repotted, you are going to see Lumi. Oh my God. When that plant is ready to be repotted, you are going to see the roots just covering the sides of the pot. If you do not have a clear pot, another really good way to do it is to keep an eye on the bottom holes of the pot. If there are some roots poking out of the holes at the bottom of the pot, it's safe to say that it's probably looking for some extra room in its pot. But that's not always the case. I do want to let you guys know that if you ever keep a reservoir of water in a cover pot, and then you also have a nursery pot in that cover pot, if you leave water in there, the roots are actually going to grow into the water. So they'll bypass any other area in that pot just to go straight down to that water. So keep that in mind. It's not always an indicator that you need to repot your plant if the roots are coming out the bottom, but it is a telltale sign when you can see them around the sides of the pot. If you really don't want to use clear pots, another great way to figure out if your plant needs a new pot is if it's drying out way too quickly. If your plant is drying out way too quickly, you definitely need to upsize that pot, because then it will take longer for that soil to dry out. That's just kind of how that works. So make sure that for the most part, you are only upsizing your pot every time you repot by 2 or 3 inches. Just try to stay with that rule if you can. Another thing to do with potting that is a really common mistake is that you do not add enough additives to your soil. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will buy potting soil from the grocery store, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that works for calatheas or bigger monsteras. Sometimes they're just okay with that because they are hardier plants. But some of the more rare plants and more exotic plants that are a little bit harder to care for often need some extra help in the soil department. So what I definitely recommend, just to keep it somewhat easy for you guys without going over the top with soil additives, I would say stick with a mixture of 33% soil, 33% perlite, and 33% bark. If you look around, you can definitely find these products. They're not too difficult to find. Bark you can easily find at the pet store. There's Repotting bark, but just make sure that you are trying to make that soil as chunky as possible. And at the minimum, at least add some extra perlite to that mixture, because that will be a big enough help. You also want to make sure that you're potting your plant into the right medium. So what that means is you're not always going to want to plant your plants into soil. When you're starting out, soil is definitely the easiest thing to grow your plants in, and when you propagate, you're probably going to put it into water, which again is one of the easier things to propagate in. But as you advance your skills, you do want to make sure that you're taking the time to really understand the care needs of that plant and choosing the medium that suits that plant the best. For example, I have a lot of plants that are in sphagnum moss, and those are plants that typically like a little bit more humidity and need help with their roots. So if you have a plant that doesn't have a great root system and they like a little bit of humidity, you may want to think about putting them into some sphagnum moss. And then on the other hand, if you have a plant that really likes to dry out, you want to put it into a really chunky soil mixture that the water almost runs directly through. There are also so many different types of growing mediums. You can use leca, you can use perlite, you can use, Barbie clothes, I don't know. As long as you're fertilizing your plants when they need it, they should be just fine. So make sure that you're doing the research and choosing that right medium for your plant based on the needs of that plant rather than your specific needs. That does need to be kept in mind though, because not everyone can take care of plants in sphagnum moss, but if you can and you have the time, try to treat your plant to the perfect medium. Last but not least is one of the most common mistakes and what kills so many people's plants. This is not checking for pests. I can tell you, I've always been pretty diligent about checking my plants for pests. That doesn't mean I've always been great about actually treating them preventatively, but I have been good at least keeping an eye on my plants. And that is the biggest step towards not having crazy outbreaks. I did once have thrips, I think. I did once have thrips, and I was able to keep it under control because I caught it soon enough. And luckily that never came up again. I haven't had thrips since. So I will say on a weekly basis, you should definitely be checking all of your plants, especially the irreplaceable plants, for pests. And at least once every month, you should be wiping down your entire collection with an insecticidal soap or Safer's End-All or Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. I think that's what it's called if you're from the States and can get that. I definitely recommend doing some preventative treatments at least once a month, just so that you never run into a really bad issue where you can lose your whole entire plant collection. So just make sure that you are really on top of cleaning off your plants' leaves at the minimum with some water and a paper towel. Just wipe them down so that these infestations can't grow over time without your knowledge. But yeah, those are the top 5 most common houseplant mistakes that any plant parent makes, not just beginners. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this and found it helpful. I enjoyed making this video for you guys, so let me know if you want to see some more care videos or care tips in the future. I'm happy to do them. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and also enter the giveaway by giving this video a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. If you want to check out my YouTube memberships, there is also a link in the description as well as a join button for some people. But yeah, definitely check that out if you want to join the behind the scenes community. That's going to be all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!